and welcome to the Spiraling Higher podcast, hosted by me, Sam, mindset and manifestation coach.
And me, Gina, your biz and mindset coach. We're here to support you on your spiritual journey by bringing you intimate and raw conversations about healing, manifestation, consciousness, and spirituality.
We hope this podcast makes you feel less alone as you become aware of your patterns and limiting beliefs to up-level your life, manifest like a boss, and together, spiral higher. Welcome back, Spiralers. I am one of your co-hosts, Sam, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Gina.
Hello.
And we are pretty fresh off of Valentine's Day, feeling the love. What did you do for Valentine's Day? I don't think I asked.
Well, David and I had like a date day kind of leading up to it because I just hate doing stuff on Valentine's Day because everything is so busy.
True.
But on the day of, usually what happens is me and Em will get him something and then he usually gets us something. But this year was actually really cute because she wanted to buy me something herself, but I was with her at the mall. So I was like, how am I supposed to let you use my card? And so anyways, we went to this chocolate shop and then she had me wait outside and then she took my debit card and she got me a little chocolate apple, which was really cute because she's like,
so
I know
sweet.
You love these, but I didn't know which one. She was like, to be honest, I've never paid attention to which one you pick because I'm always busy picking what I want.
The life of a child.
Yeah. So she's like, so I had to just pick one. And all the ones she was showing me were like, no. And then she's like, I found this one and I knew this is the one for mom. So it was really, really sweet. So she got me that. And she wrote us each a really beautiful card. And then I wrote them one. And anyways, there was lots of love going around. What did you end up doing?
I actually went to the ballet.
Oh, where did you do that?
Yeah, I did it here in my new town.
Oh,
They
I didn't
actually
know they
have
had it.
a ballet company. It's so funny because when I first moved up here a little over a month ago, I was sitting at a Starbucks and I saw the like poster for it. And I was like, oh, interesting. I didn't think that they would have a professional ballet company in this town because for anyone who's listening, I moved to a smaller town. But it had some well-known choreographer on there. And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Ooh.
Like, I want to go to that.
Was her name Samantha Chung?
But I actually thought I was going to be in Thailand during this time. So I kind of paid it no mind. And then a couple of days before Valentine's Day, I was like, oh, I'm going to see if they still have tickets because I decided to change my flight. And we went out on the town. We went to the ballet and it was amazing. I was actually, I felt like I was in a movie watching this performance and I was brought to tears because I had a quite striking and profound insight while I was watching. Okay. So I actually meant to tell you about this and I'm so glad I waited until now. But there was a really beautiful section of solo pieces for the first quarter of this ballet. Breathtaking, stunning. There was this one guy from Japan. I actually wanted to message him on Instagram because I just thought he was amazing. But we all clap. You watch the solos, and then they do the pas de deux pieces, which are the duos. And I had this insight as I was watching that the most beautiful solo just cannot compare to a partner dance. And I was watching the way that the guys were lifting the girls and how much trust there was and how many more incredible shapes they could create, how much more depth and variety there was to the shapes, how much height they could get on each lift, jump, everything. And I was like, wow, this is literally mirroring relationships. Like the journey of going into a relationship and then this partner dance, we're just feeling like this perfect mirror. And I was thinking about my own relationship and how, there's so much more trust you have to have. There's so much more opportunity for like risk and failure and falling and injury in terms of the dancing. But man, like the partner dances were so good. And I was just thinking about how they can't even create that sort of textured movement without each other. So I was crying about that. Like, and afterwards it was over and my husband was like, wow, you really liked that one, didn't you? And I was like, it wasn't really about the dance. It was what the dance like meant to me. Like
the representation and symbolism and all that.
Exactly. I had never watched partner dance in that way before where I was like, oh my God, like it just felt very poignant. So I cried. I went to the ballet. It was very romantic.
I really like that. Yeah, we ended up going around the table and each saying what we love about the other person or the people
Mm.
at the table, which was us three.
Yeah, you
But it
three.
was just really nice because it was, I know it's such a commercialized holiday and I'm usually not one to get into this, but because we have a kid and, obviously she's obsessed with it and loves giving out her Valentines, we always do it. And it was just a really good opportunity to name some like silly fun things that we love about each other, but also some deeper things. And it was really cute to like think of our inside jokes and past stories and yeah, just a good reminder. And then I love your share too, because I agree. Like when you look at two dancers, I don't know, it's like the quote that we always say that suffering happens in monologue and healing happens in dialogue. Not that the dancer suffers doing a solo, but
Yeah,
that you are limited to
you
how much you
are.
can do and feel and experience if you're just doing it alone.
Yeah, and trust me, the solos were beautiful too. I'm not trying
Yeah.
to take away from that, but it was just I was just struck suddenly as I was watching this partner dance and I was like, "Wow, like you can't make these shapes without another person to
Hmm.
support you in them."
And
Like,
I love what you said that it's not that the solos were bad or anything like that. Like I think there's a space for the solo, and just
yeah.
us. And then there's a space for the relationships.
Exactly, and I think the other thing that struck me as I was watching the performance was the actual energetic exchange that was happening between the two people.
Yeah.
Beyond the movement, the jumps, the lift, the choreo, there was just something electric happening between the two of them.
Mhm.
And it just lured me in and I was kind of realizing in the moment why I enjoy partner dances more. Like I used to watch So You Think You Can Dance religiously. And do you remember how they always paired them together? Like Twitch would be with someone and
Yep.
like I that was my favorite way of watching dance was seeing two
Mm.
people. Nappy Tabs were like those huge choreographers that always danced partnered.
Mhm.
So yeah, anyways, like 15 plus years later, I'm sitting there at the ballet in my new town and I'm just like, oh, this is why I love partner dance. There's just something so uniquely just a- aspirational and like astounding about doing it with someone else. Again, not that it takes away from the solos, but yeah, on Valentine's Day, I was sitting there with my partner and just thinking about how, like, we can reach greater heights because we are
How
together.
where you're thinking about how you two could dance together through life.
Yeah. And also, I thought about dance as a metaphor. I actually talk about this in my book too, but dancing is not about perfection. You actually have to welcome imperfection, and that's part of the dance. Like, just welcome all of that, and you're gonna step on a few toes. You're gonna trip over each other, but yeah, I'm just thinking too about how the rehearsals for those partner dances, I'm sure were much more grueling, much
Oh,
longer
yeah.
than the solos, but the product, man, the result, the performance, I was like, as a viewer, as an audience member, I was fascinated. So kudos to the dancers here where I live. They're gorgeous.
I'm so glad. Did it make you wanna
Mhm.
get up on there?
It's actually what he asked me to, my husband. He was like, "Are you gonna get involved?" And I was like, "They're actually really good. I don't think I could get involved at this point unless I just started becoming a really big donor of the ballet, like just giving a bunch of money."
Sponsored by Spiraling Higher.
Yeah, because actually the guy who sponsors the ballet, he came up on stage and gave a speech. He's like a known guy in the town. So because I moved to this smaller town, I really felt like I was in a movie because everyone kind of knew each other and it felt
Mm.
like everyone had like it was if I could put people in the credits with their names and their roles, like there was like, okay, big shot guy who's big charity donor of the ballet. And then there was like, there was like the director, and then there was like the person who was like at the ticket booth. I just felt like I was inside of a scene,
Mm.
which was a cool experience. But yeah, it was amazing. So it was the perfect Valentine's Day. But the point of this episode was inspired a little bit by Valentine's Day, and you don't need to celebrate love in a partnership. Although I am talking about how much I love these partner dances, but of
Mhm.
course you can celebrate the love of yourself, the love between friends, the love of your creative projects, the love of your pets,
Mhm.
family. I mean, love is not limited to romance, and I hope by now if you listen to the Spiraling Higher podcast, you know that.
Yeah.
But I think what inspired this episode was that Gina and I were having a conversation about how a lot of people ask us, clients, listeners, followers, how do I love myself?
Mhm.
right? We get some version of that quite often. Like, how do I know I love myself? How do I love myself more? And I wanted to answer this with an episode together because I think what blocks people from recognizing all of the self love they actually already possess is that they're looking for a somatic experience that doesn't exist.
Mm.
So I think I'm curious to hear what you think about this, Gina. But I think when people ask me or you, how do I love myself? I think what they're unconsciously asking is, how do I feel good all the time or feel
Mm.
good about myself at all times? And I don't think a loving relationship to self guarantees that. Hey, spiralers, it's that time of year again where we invite you to take our relationship and healing journey to a whole new level. So, if you've been craving deep healing and aligned sisterhood, this is your invitation to the exclusive annual Spiraling Higher retreat this June for a conscious, healing, playful weekend. Imagine waking up to ocean views and stunning sunrises in La Paz, Mexico, near Cabo, where you'll spend 4 transformative days with like-minded women, all here for the same purpose: to awaken your hidden dreams, unleash your full potential, and break free from the patterns that hold you back. This June 7th through 10th, we're inviting the most aligned members from our community to join us for this retreat. We've thoughtfully designed this experience to be intimate, powerful, and deeply aligned with the work we've been doing together on the podcast. You'll be sharing a beautiful double room accommodation with another spiraler, someone hand-selected just for you based on birth chart synastry, ensuring a deeply enriching connection. From morning meditations and breath work to guided workshops and leisure time in the sun and sand, every moment is designed to support your transformation. With all meals, all activities included, even transportation to and from the airport, all you need to bring is your openness to grow and connect. This is more than just a retreat. It's a call to tap into your intuition and authentic self in a community that was created just for you. This experience is ultimately for the women who are ready to step into their highest vibration and finally say yes to their deepest desires. And we have less than 10 spots available, so if you feel that nudge, that inner call to join us, don't hesitate. Head to the link in our show notes for more details. We can't wait to see you there. I agree with that. I don't know if I would coin it in, for me personally, as loving myself or feeling good all the time, but more about certain topics. I think there's a certain wounds that we all have that we have a harder time loving ourselves or loving about ourselves. And that for me was something that I was on a perpetual pursuit of, was how do I love myself with this specific thing? Or how do I love myself even though I don't embody these qualities or these traits that I really want? But yeah, they're all in the same color. Yeah, I think that ultimately the seeking for a self-love in some way is to feel just kind of epically complete and ultimately happy, which
Yeah.
obviously is an experience that's available to you.
Yeah.
But I, for one, used to think that if I loved myself, if I radically accepted all parts of me, that I would actually just feel good most of the time about who I am, about what's going on in life. But I actually realized that that loving myself was my behavior towards me when I
Totally.
didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
And so because I would feel oftentimes self-doubtful or anxious or fearful, I would think, oh, this is me like not loving myself to some degree. But actually, I realized through doing this work that when I felt anxious, I would do like a grounding meditation. When I felt upset or sad, I would call you. And really slowly, I began to realize that these were self-loving acts.
Yes.
But I wasn't perceiving them that way. I was like, no, if I love myself, I wouldn't even be struggling with that. But I
Totally.
think the love was actually shown to me through my behaviors. And so I don't think this is about how do I love myself, but it's more like how do I care for myself? That is love, and that's something you can actually work on.
Yeah.
I think trying to like love yourself more is so ephemeral otherwise.
Yeah. And I think it's ultimately boiling down to the truth of what you kind of already named, which is that loving yourself definitely isn't about feeling good all the time, but it is how do
Mm-hmm.
you treat yourself when you don't feel great. And
Exactly.
I always say that the strength of any relationship, whether it be with yourself or with a partner, it's not measured by how good it feels when everything's going well and all the circumstances are perfect. But really, the strength of that relationship is how do you show up when things, again, are not going in the most ideal way? How do you hold yourself when you feel shame or when you feel, unworthy, all of those types of things? Because at the end of the day, I think self-love really, it is not a destination. It is a relationship.
It's
And
a
just like
practice.
any other relationship, yes, it requires time, patience, care, nurturing. And some days it's really easy and some days it's not. But at the end of the day, it is a relationship. And I think that's something that we have to remember, that it's not a place that you're going to get to and all of a sudden
Yes.
you're plugged in and it's going to feel great all the time, as you said.
Exactly. I think that that's why we felt motivated to have this conversation, because a lot of the questions around how do I love myself, they are a bit destination focused,
Yeah.
right? Like if I actually learn how to love myself, I will be in this place, in this state, in this position where I perceive mostly positive things happening, or
Mhm.
like you said, kind of feeling good all the time, or not feeling bad in certain areas anymore.
Mhm.
But it's not a static state. It's not a destination in the future. It's an ongoing practice and relationship, like Gina said. And so I remember asking the same things like 5, 6 years ago. I'm like, how do I love myself? And I'm reading all these books on self-love. And then it took me years and years and years later to realize that reading the book on self-love was me being self-loving.
Yeah,
Like, a
totally.
lot of it was me actually recognizing that I was already doing it. It wasn't a thing I had to, like, figure out and, like, solve. The fact
Mhm.
that I was even trying to figure that out was loving.
Yeah, I think that was one of my hardest realizations and really painful for a lot of people is when we start this journey, one of the wake up calls that we have is, oh my gosh, I've been being so mean to myself. And it can feel very heartbreaking to realize, oh my gosh, like I've been so mean to myself. I'm so critical. And then we automatically assume that we don't love ourselves because we have these negative thoughts.
Mhm.
But the desire to love yourself is love.
Yes.
The
Oh my
part of
god.
you that seeks healing, that wants to be kinder to yourself, that notices that voice is mean, that is the evidence that love already exists inside of you. Because only somebody who loves themselves would even care to look for more. So if you've ever felt like you don't love yourself enough, just always remember that the fact that you're even searching and noticing that, and the fact that you want to love yourself more means that you already do.
I think that has to be the clip that we quote for this podcast, because or the quote that we clip, because
Yeah.
that integration, it feels kind of like that quote that I talk about with you all the time, ripe fruit falls quickly,
Mhm.
because I'd
Mhm.
been working through that for like 6 years, and then one day I just plucked the fruit and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, everything I'm trying to do is an attempt of it's a loving attempt.
Yeah.
I already am the love I'm seeking, not, oh, how do I become more loving? How do I do this?" But literally the part of me that's asking is a loving part of myself.
Yeah.
And that it was like this day where I felt like all of the parts of me that were looking outside of me for some solution, some ultimate self-loving destination was like, I'm already there. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to race towards this thing or like seek outside or feel attached. Like, the thing I'm looking for is literally right here. So I can relax. Like, it's a loving thing for me to worry about being more self-loving, but it's okay. Like, I'm already doing that in so many ways. And like you said, it's going to be easier some days, less easy other days, but it really is in how you show up. And so there's something romantic and loving about you listening to this podcast right now. Like,
Yeah.
what self-hating person does that? Right?
Yeah.
You are actually seeking perspectives, a frequency, an insight that is going to help you land more deeply in your body, in your true self. And so, yeah, I think this idea of like, how do I love myself? I feel like the question itself kind of proves, like you said, it's already there.
Totally. Yeah, and I think it does come back to feeling like loving yourself would be that you love everything that you do
Yes.
and that you love everything that you create and that you just, yeah, you're just your biggest fan all the time. But if you think about even loving your parents, loving your siblings, loving your pets or your kids or whoever, your friends, like you're not always in this high vibration of like obsession over this person. I mean, think about how many
No.
times you've like been pissed off at your brother,
Yeah.
but you still love him, right? And actually, the fact that you're pissed off at him is because you care. Like if
Exactly.
you didn't love him, you probably wouldn't be angry at all. And so I think we have to just redefine what self-love even means and feels like and not assume that it's this, Hallmark card of just loving everything that you do. Cause that's definitely what I was seeking. I think for me was like, oh, but
Totally.
how come I don't feel good when I create this? Or how come I don't feel confident when I show up to this? And I thought that if I love myself, that I would feel confident. But those are two completely separate things, right? Like you could
Totally.
actually not have confidence that your husband is able to do something and still love him.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible parallel because I think that we believe that the absence of confidence or any sort of desired emotion is like the proof of the
Yeah.
non-self-love,
Yeah.
but those actually don't go together in that sort of direct way. Like I can definitely lack confidence and
Mm-hmm.
feel nervous about something or doubt my capacity to do something and still love who I am.
Yeah.
Like, and I thought that those 2 things, like, couldn't be true at the same time.
Same.
Like,
Yeah.
or had to be true at the same time because if I wasn't confident, then I was like, "Oh, I'm not loving myself," or like, "I'm
Yeah.
not appreciating myself." But actually, how self-love really shows up and what it really looks like is, "Okay, I don't feel confident about this thing." And a lot of it is just validating that I don't. Like,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. I mentioned this in my voice note to you yesterday, but I went up to the mountain to go snowboarding for
Mm-hmm.
the first time in 11 months. And I also went to a new ski hill, which by the way, it's massive. Like I did not like the one I normally go to has like 2 ski chairlifts. This one has like 10.
Mm.
Like I did not look at a map or like understand the lay of the land. So the whole experience was like very novel for me. I was kind of freaking out about how long the ski chairlift was taking. I was like, wow, this is a lot higher than I thought. The visibility was actually very tough because it was really foggy at the top. So I actually
Mm-hmm.
felt really nervous the entire time I was snowboarding.
I bet.
And the self love for me was like, it's okay. I can trust my body. It's okay. This is a new ski hill. Like, I'm kind of nervous because I don't know if it's like a left or a right or if I'm going the right way. It's okay. It's been 11 months since I've been on the board. So I feel a little bit shaky, but I'm happy to be out here. And so I think that a previous version of me would have thought that if I was like super confident, super loving, like I wouldn't have those sensations. Like, why is that
Mm-hmm.
happening? But
Mm-hmm.
really, it's no, those sensations are going to happen. And how I relate to that is my self love.
Yeah.
And that just has been life changing.
Yeah, maybe the question is not, oh, like, how do I love myself? But like, how do I show and express my love? Maybe
Hmm.
that's the thing because I'm even thinking about, again, with like a child, loving a child is not only loving them when everything's like totally fine, but if a child comes up to you and says, hey, I'm really scared, the love expresses itself by asking it like what's wrong, what do you need. It's
Hmm.
literally the steps of how to take care of the person or the circumstance in that moment, and that's the love. So yeah, I wonder if that's what it is, because I think for me that's how I started to connect with how much love I actually do have for myself. Was I saw
Yeah.
like, oh my god, I have never given up on myself. I have
Yeah.
always been seeking support, whether that's through therapy, coaching, talking to friends. I've never given up on the pain and the stories that have been alive inside of me. I've never stopped feeling them and paying attention to them. And
Hmm.
that's love. I've always been seeking the quote unquote medicine for myself in whatever form that I can. And when I see the way that I express my love for myself, that's when I realized, oh, I do love myself, because otherwise I would never be able to find the path of finding that medicine for myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I think that recognition of like, wait, I'm literally already doing it.
Yeah,
Like something about that is like a deep paradigm shift because I think what causes the majority of the distress, in addition to obviously just feeling negative sensations of not feeling confident or insecure, but we feel distressed because we think we're not doing it right. We're like, oh,
exactly.
I like, how do I? This person looks like she's loving herself, or it looks like they approve and accept themselves. Like, how do I do that? And it's like, you are already doing that in small ways.
Yeah.
Can you increase the frequency of which you behave in a loving way? Sure. Yeah, but I think like that's a different approach than perceiving yourself as incorrect or behind, wrong. You're not doing it wrong. You're just now learning how to treat yourself more lovingly. And I think that the thing I also had to integrate was that treating myself lovingly didn't mean that I was going to feel
Yeah.
this like just constant like swelling of love in my heart. Like I thought I was going to feel euphoric
Yeah.
about
Like
myself.
everything you do is amazing and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I just thought I was going to be like, I'm awesome. I love everything I try and I'm so good at this. Like I thought that that was the result of self-love, but it's actually loving that I don't need to feel that way. Like
Exactly.
it's not that I need to become so self-loving that I become just emotionally impenetrable by anything by
Yeah.
anything negative. It's more just like, no, like I love myself and I experience those things, but because I love myself, that's okay.
Mhm.
Like it's expressing more okayness towards the thing you're trying to solve with your perceived sense of self-love. It's like you wouldn't need to actually solve so much of that
Mhm.
if you realize that you already did love yourself. It's okay that you don't know how to do that. It's okay that you feel that way. And I was still
Mm.
trying to eliminate feeling that way through finding a way to love myself,
Yeah, and I
which
feel
is
like a
such
lot of
a yeah.
yeah, I feel like a lot of people go into like self-blame when, like I said, they realize that they do have a harder time loving themselves or being kinder to themselves. But the thing that I always remind my clients of is you just never learned. You never learned how. You didn't even learn what self-love even was. I feel like even the definition that a lot of us have of self-care is like, going to the spa or whatever. And even that rhetoric is so not even the appropriate definition that supports most of us. But at the end of the day, you never learned how to do that. And I feel like you and I talked about this where it's literally like not learning a certain language. Like if you didn't grow up speaking Italian, you're not going to probably know how to speak Italian right now. So if you didn't grow
Nope.
up being modeled how to express and support yourself and show love and how to notice yourself and see yourself in that way, you're not going to know how to speak that language now. But the part of you that desires to learn what that language is, that is self-love. And so I just really want to drive that point home because for so long, I just not feeling like I love myself was just an extra weight on top of the already
Yes.
huge pile of healing things that I needed to work through or felt like I needed to work through. But when I realized that the foundation of which that was being supported by was self-love, there was something just so opening and supportive in that. Um, there's just something I think where something else does start to swell. Maybe not in like the Hallmark card 24/7 swelling of the heart all the time, but I think there is a realization of wow, like again, I haven't given up on myself and I haven't learned how to speak this language, but I'm willing to learn. And that's very loving.
Yeah, I really like the language metaphor, but also I think too, it's adjusting your expectations of what that language is going to sound like
Yeah,
when you do learn it.
true.
Because, yeah, I think that the art of learning self love again, it feels like like when I learn how to accept and love myself, I am never going to struggle emotionally. And I think I've
Yeah,
mentioned that several times now, but it's not that at all. It's such grace when you are experiencing that and just appreciating your entire just human spectrum of contrast and everything in between. And for the longest time, I wanted my self-love to be this thing that like saved me. And I think that's kind of how people
yeah,
talk about it.
totally.
Like,
Yeah.
just love yourself. Like everything will be fine if you love and accept yourself. And like that's true, but it's not all fine and good because you feel fine and good.
Yeah,
It becomes fine and good because you treat yourself well when it doesn't feel fine and good.
exactly.
And I think that we think that like the secret, if we could just figure out how to self-love, that we just wouldn't suffer anymore. But I
Hmm.
don't actually want to spread that message. I love myself and I think Gina loves herself a lot too. We wouldn't actually show up on this podcast if we didn't. This is an act of love for ourselves, but we do not feel good all the time. Like
Absolutely not.
loving myself has not saved me from the human experience. It has not taken me on an exit ramp of the human emotions. Like,
no,
I'm still here. Like, you're still here. Like, we are still experiencing so much emotional contrast. But I think our relationship to self, obviously, is completely changing our experience of those emotional highs and lows.
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest way to do this, and I know we offer this to our clients a lot, is to really externalize um, like what this self-love would look like in the way that you love your friends or your family members. Because again, if I see somebody suffering near me, like you or my daughter, the most loving thing I can do once again is to not just try to get rid of that and just erase it
Mm-hmm.
and find a solution where you don't feel that anymore. But again, how can I support you? What do you need in this moment? And I think it's really, for me, the ticket to loving myself has really come through the way that I care for my daughter. And it's always been asking myself the question, like, what would I want? What would I do for her? And that's how it's been able to show me, oh, like, it is always in the way that I show up for myself, not in the way that I inherently feel 24/7. And
Yeah.
I think honestly, the most loving moments that I've had with myself have been in my darkest moments where I have felt the worst. It's been feeling that inner support and that inner parent of, it's okay that you feel like this. It's okay that you're
Yeah.
not okay. It's okay. And just that okayness. Whereas I
Yeah.
think before, that feeling would have been amplified by feeling like I need to like love myself and feel good about this and love every part of this. So yeah, hopefully this conversation is helping everyone to connect with this. But I'm trying to think of other ways that this might show up for people.
Well, I love what you just said there too. And I it has removed that burden that you mentioned of like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
see, I don't love myself, because I really thought that all of my struggles would be solved by loving the self. Like, and I felt like every book I was reading for like the final solution. I'm like,
Right.
okay, there's gonna be some line in this book that knocks it into my head and makes me loving and takes away all of my emotional like turmoil and like inner resistance. And it wasn't that at all. And I like keep repeating myself, but yeah, it's actually just completely changing the way I see myself in the face of those things. And it makes
Mm,
it easier to deal with. It's still, you still feel it, right? It's like going outside with an umbrella. It's like it's still raining,
exactly.
but
Yeah.
like you can support yourself with what you need. Like you put on your
Mm-hmm.
raincoat or whatever, you wear your thick socks that day. And it's like a loving act that you do, given that it's fucking raining.
Yeah.
Like
And that's self-love.
it
Love it.
is. It
Yeah,
is.
to prepare. And I don't know, like, even I saw how my anxiety was actually self-loving. It had a
Hmm.
self-loving intent. It was preparing me for what might happen. It was worried about me being, freaking out at the airport, whatever that might be. And I could see that even my anxiety had such a positive intent. And that's actually something I teach a lot of, that our nervous systems are inherently loving. They only want
Yes.
balance for you. Your body is primed to be loving in that way because it's primed to take care of you and primed to help you survive. So even in your nervous system responses of, getting really upset at somebody or getting really hurt by something or feeling really anxious, all of those are ultimately boiling down to a part of you that just wants to protect you and love you,
Hmm.
which I
I
think it can be really
know.
helpful to see it that way, because it's sometimes can feel like your body's attacking you or going against you, but it's ultimately just like this overactive bodyguard that's looking out for you.
I think and when you do see it as love, it relaxes it, because the way that I learned that was through healing a lot of things with my mom,
Mm-hmm.
because my mom was like that constant like worry wart, and like she'd get angry if I physically injured myself. And when I was a child, I saw that as like an attack. Like, oh, I'm such a bad kid, or like, oh, she's mad at me. Now I'm an adult and I'm like, oh my God, she was just scared. She was
Yeah.
just trying to protect me. And actually, she acted that way because she loves me so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I wasn't her kid, if she didn't care about my well being, okay, whatever. Go out on the skateboard and scratch yourself up and sprain your ankle. I don't care. Or I remember like getting so mad at my mom so many times that she wouldn't let me do something. But it was just because she was trying to protect me, and that was love. And in healing my relationship with my past and things that happened between us, it was always through seeing everything that she did that I may have internalized in a poor way. It was actually an act of love. It
Mm-hmm.
may not have felt loving at the
Yep.
time, but it was an act of love. And like Gina said, even your anxiety, your yeah, your resistance to trying something new sometimes, like those are also self-loving aspects if you can choose to see them that way.
Yeah, so I think one of the first steps you can take in learning how to love yourself is to actually just start noticing all the ways that you already do.
Yeah.
Notice all of the ways that you care for yourself, the ways that even for me, like I always pack like I have so many jackets in my car because I always get cold. Like that's loving. Like that I can only know that about myself if I care about myself and I care enough to bring something that so that I'm not freezing. Like
Yeah.
right now I'm sitting on a heating pad.
Yeah, I have my Gina blanket, my
Yeah.
blanket with your pictures on it.
And, I have, like, my little heater under the desk, and when I start to notice, like, "Oh my gosh," and I brought my lunch today, and I have my water bottle, like, I can see all of the expressions of love, even just looking around in my office, the books that I have, the cute colors of pens that I have. These are all things that I could only do if I understood and knew myself enough to love myself and take those extra steps to get the things that I prefer and make me feel good in my office and bring me joy. And so I think just start there and just look around and just
Yeah.
notice all the ways that you already care for yourself and see that that can only come from a place of love.
I think what you're saying is like the secret. And it really parallels what we've already mentioned in any of our abundance or money episodes.
Yep.
This question of how do I love myself, it's almost an exact mirror for how do I feel more abundant. And just notice the question, how do I feel more abundant, is actually coming from scarcity and creating scarcity and perpetuating scarcity, as opposed to what we suggest in our previous episodes. You can go listen to episode 25 or maybe 57. But we actually say, in order to feel more abundant, realize all the ways in which you already are.
Mhm.
That is how you become abundant. You can't feel abundant by looking for abundance. That's creating a gaping hole.
Right.
And so I think that this is the same thing with this self-love. You cannot notice all of your self-love when you keep looking outside for more of it. It's right here. It's like you said, it's in the jackets that you put in the car. Like, if for me, like, it's in the freaking blue light blocking glasses that I put on now for my growing eye irritation. Like, it's in these little things that we do for ourselves already. And I think that the more we start to notice it, the self-judgment of maybe not being self-loving starts to drop away, and we free up that energy to use for something else. And then we start to actually experience somatically, like, oh, like, maybe like this is self-love. And it's not going to feel like a rocket ship took you to a different planet where you don't experience the human experience anymore. And if that is what you think, then I'm so sorry, because I was heartbroken too. I
Yeah.
really I really thought that the secret was that I was going to love myself and just never be unhappy. But I think what you made as a parallel to relationships is really key. Like, I love you more than, like, seriously anyone, I swear. But I'm not like always, well, 95%. 95% of the time I'm like pretty obsessed with you. But like our energy towards a person, even if we have this constant unconditional love towards them, it ebbs and flows a little bit.
Yeah,
And
like,
so
I
why would it be
love
any different towards yourself?
100%. Like, I love my kid so much, but
Yeah,
does
perfect
she drive me
example.
crazy sometimes? Absolutely. Like, I'm not
Yes.
always feeling that feeling that I had when I first
Yeah.
gave birth to her, like,
And
all the
imagine
time.
and imagine if you thought that the proof of your love was that you
I feel
only
like that all the
felt
time.
constantly flooded with feelings of, like, love and appreciation. Like, no, you feel angry, anxious,
Yeah.
scared sometimes.
Basically, if I applied the same belief of what I thought self-love meant for me, like, to my relationship with my daughter, I would basically assume that I hated my child. Like, I would. I'd be like, "I'm so fake. I only love her sometimes, and sometimes I don't." But that's just never what I think.
Because you know that feeling angry or feeling irritated does not indicate an absence of love. And so let's actually use that, if you're listening, as a template for your self love. Okay, what
Mhm.
if you did feel insecure sometimes? What if you do feel angry sometimes? What if you do feel tired, sad, low sometimes? And none of that actually was an indication of how little you loved yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Actually, if you're showing up still in life, which you are, you're showing up right now to this episode, you're showing up to this day, you've made it through every present moment, and I'm so proud of you. But if you're here right now, you are actually engaging in an act of love already.
Yeah. And, you know, to take that even a step further, I know that we've definitely both experienced moments of this. And I know our clients have it too, where when we feel like we just hate ourselves and we just,
Yeah.
there's just
Been
that
there.
self-loathing. I want to bust out into Wicked now. But yeah, like even in the moments of feeling how much I hated myself, or I perceived myself to hate myself, or really not like myself, it hurt. And why does it hurt? Because you love yourself. Like, it could only hurt because it feels painful in contrast to the love that you have and want to give to yourself, which again is loving.
Yes.
Like somebody breaking up
Oh
with
my
you, if
God.
they left your life, if you love that person, it's gonna hurt
Yes.
because of how much you love them, right? And so even the pain you feel of not loving yourself, that is love too.
Yeah, that was a mic drop, and also a huge integration for me. It really mirrors what Abraham Hicks said about whenever you feel contrast, it's because you're not in agreement with your inner being. And I heard that like 9 years in a row before I was like, "What the fuck does that mean?" Like, fuck my
Totally.
inner being. I remember we used to joke about
No, you used
just
to say
like
that to me all the time.
literally,
I'd
I'd
be
be like,
like,
"Fuck my inner being."
because I would always say to you, "Oh, it's only hurting because it disagrees with your inner being." And you'd be like, "Fuck
Right,
my
which
inner
which
being."
essentially means it's not aligned with love, which is who
Yes.
you are. That's why it feels that way. And so
Yeah.
the question, how do I love myself, in and of itself creates the belief that you have to find more ways to love yourself.
Mhm.
That was the intention of this conversation, this transmission, because again, it's a question we get asked a lot, but the flaw is in the question.
Mm.
And the cure is not to actually seek out ways, but is to again self-realize.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm already loving myself in these ways. Can I grow those ways, strategies? Absolutely. You can always add in a few more loving things at any
Mhm.
time. It's the same way with the abundance. How do I become more abundant? Realize you already are. Look around, look at your relationships, look at how lucky you are. If you're listening to this right now, you probably have some sort of iPhone or Android. You're in a safe space. You have a lot of privileges. And so sometimes I feel like we just have to lower our bar of like,
Mm.
what is abundance? What is love? Because I think we're looking for something like extraordinary all the time.
Mhm.
And one of the things I actually have to give my husband a lot of credit for is he often compares our lifestyle to other countries where people don't have access to the same freedoms, like even voting rights or water. I don't know where he gets this from, but anytime he's feeling bad about his quote unquote life, he's like, "Oh, well, we live in Canada, like it could be worse." And I feel like sometimes I need to bring my bar back down to there because I've so far surpassed the like I live in this country bar. Like I'm trying to like attract all these different things and like feel grateful for having so much in my life instead of realizing, wait, there's already so much in my life.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe the question, we can refine it instead of how do I love myself? How do you already love yourself?
Yes.
And furthermore, how do I care for myself? I think there's something about caring for myself that might feel a little bit easier to connect to than love.
Mhm.
Because again, if you feel like you hate yourself, then love is quite a stretch. But
Yeah.
even when you feel like you hate yourself, you're still doing active things to take care of yourself through that, whether that be, again, telling a friend, journaling about it. Those are all forms of taking care of that pain. And just always remember that that's connected to a part of you that loves you. Like, I always just think that, like, who is the one noticing that this hurts inside of me?
Mm.
That's me.
Yeah.
And that's me caring, and that's me loving myself. And so just always attune to that too. Like, who inside of me isn't even noticing that I'm in pain?
Yeah.
It's you,
Yeah.
and you love you, and
Ugh.
that's why you're noticing it. So,
And that's why you're also listening to this episode
yes.
because surprise, you actually love yourself.
Yes.
Um, well, this is the final thing I'll say because I know you have some limited time today, but I get clients like that all the time or people who come into my clarity calls and they say, "I really want to like do this coaching so I can like learn how to love myself."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "You're investing several $1,000s to improve your life and the quality of your experiences. That is self-loving."
Yeah.
Like, and just starting there and like getting them to
Yes.
start orienting themselves towards seeing what they've been missing.
Mhm.
And that's what the abundance and gratitude practice is too. It's a reattunement, it's a recalibration. It's looking again with fresh eyes and being like, "Oh, that was already there. I just wasn't
Mhm.
looking. I felt so scarce because I kept looking away from the source of everything I already have and am.
Yeah, and I mean, this is not to say that we can't learn how to deepen these practices, because obviously you and I do coach a lot of people through this, and even each other and ourselves, and I can definitely say that my self-love journey has been continuously evolving, but it's much like falling in love with somebody. You keep on learning to love them more. You keep on learning new things about them. Like even you and I, when we recorded our last episode and we were explaining what we see in each other and those like different animals and as a color, and that's also me learning so many new things about you that I can't even answer those questions. And so, the self-love journey it's an ongoing journey. It's not a destination, as we said at the beginning of this episode. So we're not saying that just notice how much you love yourself and you're done. You obviously can continue to deepen that just like you would in any other relationship. But at least start with noticing, because it is already there. And we don't want to miss it, as you said.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm really glad we talked about this because it had been a topic on my mind for a while. And again, like it is just not a destination. It's not like, oh, I love myself and then I never have to do anything again. It's like, nope, you're gonna have to wake up again, you're gonna have to shower again, you're gonna have to eat again. You're gonna have to continue to show up for yourself again and again. And so it is the commitment to an ongoing, loving, compassionate dialogue with yourself, a practice to be accepting and compassionate. And it's not always going to be easy. We have a lot of days where I'm like, fuck being compassionate. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And sometimes, honestly, just owning that and validating that, that's loving too. Like, okay, we're not going to try to change that right now. We're going to validate the part of myself that doesn't want to self accept. That's fine.
Well, yeah, because imagine if between you and I, let's just say we were in a fight, and if you were like, I don't want to work on this right now, I don't want to repair this, I would probably just be like, that's okay. Call me when you are ready. But if I were like, you must work on this right now and you must fix this immediately, it's like, no, it's about being okay with, again, like you said, the feelings of even not wanting to do something or not wanting to take care of yourself, not taking those actions. It's loving me, even being able to accept that.
Every part of it. Yeah. So we hope this Valentine's Day inspired episode on self-love just helped you anchor into the belief and reality that a lot of what you're seeking to do, you already have within you. A lot of the work is always going to be realization based as opposed to action based. And that's a tough way of reorienting yourself because I think we are conditioned to, if we want to feel something, it's like, what do I do? What do I do?
Yeah.
But this work has shown me over and over again, more so that it's, what do I need to realize? Or what is it that I need to remember? Because the doing sort of perpetuates the not having. So yeah, I hope that you are feeling more anchored in your self-love after hearing this.
Yes, and we would love to hear about what you've realized and what you've been able to notice and love about yourself, or the way that you care for yourself. Share it with us in our community. The link is in our show notes, and we would love to see what you've discovered.
Yep. We will see you in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this honest conversation. We hope it brought you peace, clarity, and a little bit further along your spiritual journey.
If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to us if you left us a 5-star rating and a review so we can bring you more conscious conversations, spiritual topics, and guests.
And we lovingly invite you to join our free Spiraling Higher community by clicking the link in the show notes to continue this healing dialogue and share with us how this episode impacted you.
Come on in, introduce yourself, and meet your conscious besties in a safe space for healing conversations between us and other like-minded people on their healing journey.
Here's to Spiraling Higher.